Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And thanks to Millennial Mike, we are going to chop it up and look at Valuetainment's next video. All right, share the screen. This is so cool you did this. Thanks again.
When it comes down to builders, a recent article from Bloomberg said the following data. Builders are slashing their prices on new homes at an unbelievable rate as the market cools and prices drop at the fastest pace, ready, since 2006. Austin, Texas, Nashville new construction offering with price cuts has quadrupled from a year earlier. Phoenix tripled, Tampa region doubled. So now I want you to take a look at this chart and kind of explain to you why this matters so much when it comes down to builders. You're seeing this chart that says 1 million homes, and at the top it says single family building backlog. Look at the difference with the blue, which is single family homes under construction, permitted, skyrocketing, that's inventory, and the orange is mortgage purchase demand. This is from U.S. Census Bureau. So if we having more builders are building areas that is not bought by anybody, but mortgage is dropping, that's when inventory goes up. When inventory goes up, prices goes down. This is not a good sign to look at when it comes down to value of homes staying stable. So the next thing to take a look at is active listings, which Dave Ramsey, who said, this fear porn, all this stuff that he says, it's just not a big deal, maybe a little bit, it's not gonna happen, nothing over 5 years, which by the way, 5 years, he may be right that nothing's really gonna happen over 5 years, but we're talking today. Okay, we're talking today when, hey, I wanna buy a house right now. You may wanna wait another year till you buy a house. Just watch this data here and you make a decision for yourself. So this is from Realtor.com showing active listings, and you'll see the different colors represent different years, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I want you to focus on 2022 all the way at the bottom, which is yellow. You'll see the active listings in January goes down. If it goes down, property value goes higher because there is less inventory for you to buy a house. Inventory goes down. This is good for sellers. February to March, pretty much unchanged, good for sellers. March to April goes up a little bit, better for buyers. Look at April to May, goes up. Look at May to June, goes up 18.7%. Now that's only 2 months. If this chart, the number to follow is this one, it's very important. If the active listing keeps going higher and higher and higher, and builders have a bunch of place that's not occupied, and that goes higher and higher and higher, and the amount of mortgage applications goes lower and lower and lower, you don't need to be a genius to know. You have to drop the value of your house to sell it. It's just what's gonna happen. That's pure basic economy, supply and demand. This is why one of the most important data to look at is active listing. That tells a story. So now real estate value, obviously in the last 2 years has gone up, not 10%, not 15%, not 20%. It's gone up 40.4%. Some areas even more than 40.4%, but across the board 40.4%, which is great. It's gone up, so people are making money. If you own a house, you build a lot of equity for yourself. But here's the challenge. If that's going up, what else has gone up? Construction's gone up, steel's gone up, materials gone up, energy's gone up, furniture's gone up, concrete's gone up, transportation's gone up, softwood lumber's gone up, price of freight has gone up 26%. Price of deep sea transportation freight is up 35%. So that's all good for the economy. But what happens now when inventory goes up and people are no longer buying at the pace that they were? What's going to happen to that 40.4%? Could it go back down to zero? If it goes back down 40%, it's what? It's what it was worth 2 years ago. So that's pretty realistic. But what if it goes down 60%? What else takes a hit? Steel, furniture, construction. All of those industries also take a hit. This is why it's all intertwined.
It was really good. So again, kind of my thoughts on that segment. Oh, lots of things to talk about. Again, he is definitely he's skewing the message in not realizing that, people operating in this business have been doing it for decades. So let's talk about builders. So first off, his idea, trying to say that builders are just going to keep building at the same rate is clearly a fallacy. We've already talked about that in the last week on my channel. This is what builders are doing. And that's why we have this expert series. My Monday expert, Greg Dickerson, is a builder. And he told us months ago what is happening right now. Greg basically said, Michael, what they're going to do is they're going to blow out finished product, right? If a house is done and the buyer backed out, they will blow it out. They will discount it, right? Because they got to recycle their capital. But after that, they're just going to slow down. They're going to slow down. We have heard in builders, they're laying people off. They're getting lower rates. So again, this whole graph is very misleading. Second, the graph was single family homes in mortgage demand. Would it shock you to know that 25% of homes are bought with cash?
That actually would shock me. I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, 25% of homes are bought with cash. So none of those will fall in there. Second, would it surprise you to know that build for rent is a model that is gaining steam and may gain more steam as we go through this? So again, a finished home is not equal, right? Some portion of that will be bought for cash. Some portion of that would be bought by other uses. So it's really, I guess it's an interesting chart, but it's certainly not complete, right? Demand is made up in lots of different areas. But that said, builders are going to slow down. We will have a recession. To me, it's all about transactions. Next, he talks about inventory, which is almost hilarious, right? Hey, look at the bottom of the screen, the yellow line. Oh my God, we are up to 40% of the other years.
Yes.
So again, yeah, follow active listings. I think it's going to go up. I think, but again, like we talk about all the time on this channel, here's the scenario I am hearing more and more from brokers. And again, I said this would happen. I've heard it in the last 3 days. Michael, you're right. The National Association of Realtors report scared my buyers. They want to sell because they think we're at a peak. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of classic. Well, Michael, here's the deal. Their house is worth $499 today. They want to sell it at $550 because their neighbor down the street in January sold for $550. They think they can get $550. I can't talk more. Right, but I can't talk them out of it. So what happens? That house gets listed for $550. That house will probably stay on the market for 30, maybe 45 days. And ultimately, if the buyer's not willing to relent, which most won't, it's going to come off. So we're going to have a lot of noise in listings. The next 60 days will be full of noise. So we may see a massive, and I'm calling for a massive spike in inventory, but it would not shock me. Let's like August 15th, August 21st, kind of peak inventory. And then you fast forward 30 days, watch, it'll come down 10%. So again, more listings does not mean lower prices. It doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't. If the seller doesn't have to sell and you don't give them $550, the other option is they take it off the market. We have want to sell and we have need to sell. What we had last time in 2008, Patrick Bet-David knows this. He's a smart guy. We had forced sellers. We had strategic defaults everywhere. People today don't have to sell. If you are one of the, 13% of folks that have a rate below 3%, you're not selling. You certainly don't have to. Your mortgage payment is less than rent. If you're one of the 50% that have rates 3.5% or low, you don't have to sell. If you get your $550, great, you're happy. But if you don't, you just stay put. We have crushed demand. 18 million people could qualify at 3%, can't qualify at 6%. We have equally destroyed supply. But that's not going to show up in the data for a while. We're going to get all of these FOMO sellers coming on the market, but they don't have to sell. So if you don't give them $550, they're not selling. This is why I have been saying for a year now, the Fed broke housing. We have had a natural order for 50 years. First time home, move up home, luxury. That is all broken. Nothing available at the bottom end. The move up buyers are trapped. It's just messy. That's why builders are slow. That's why transactions are going to crash. This 50% price drop is comical. But, again, I think he's trying to scare people to reach out to him so he could build on that great video that went viral and help you do, plan for the recession and stack cash. And I can see the marketing already. It's genius on his part.
So for anybody who watches that video, if you go back and rewatch it and pause it where he's looking at the graph, essentially what Mike was talking about. Yes, inventory is ticking up, but we are ticking up from historic lows to just now starting to cross into half of what 5 of those years on that graph we're at. We have a long way to go before we even just get to regular levels. And how much further do we have to go beyond that before we would actually have so much supply that it could affect prices? So supply is going to increase, but yet the price is not going to drop because the demand is being destroyed. And so the sellers are looking at the market and saying, hey, we want to sell our house. As you mentioned, they're going to sit there and say, well, I guess we're not selling anymore. Rather than drop their prices, they're not going to sell because, as you mentioned, they're not being forced to. What's different from last time is that they are not being forced to sell their houses.
That is the biggest difference between today and 2008 is we don't have to force sellers. Now, let's be clear. I'm not saying if the unemployment rate doubles and all of these bad things happen that we couldn't eventually have forced sellers, but we are months and quarters away from a cascading of negativity making that happen. Right now, as of the recording of this video, equally so Patrick's video, there's no forced sellers. And when you don't have forced sellers, you can't have cascading problems. We are going to see inventory build. We are going to see cancellations and expireds explode because in order to get a housing transaction done, you have to have an agreement from the seller and the buyer on price or price and terms. And it's just not going to happen. This is why I have confidently said for 6 months, and people hate it. I think it is critical. We are going to have the largest housing crash ever in transactions. And it is going to cause a nasty recession. And it's going to blow people away that the national housing market doesn't crash. There's no agreement on price.
So. I agree. And what's interesting is he's actually going to highlight the crash in transactions in the next clip we're going to watch.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Let's go take a look.